Hello, and welcome to the 99th episode of Sutton Impact Family Style. That's
Hard
pretty
to
crazy.
believe.
Yeah,
Next week will be our 100th show.
yes. And we are working on getting a few guests and some things and some three people on the phone at the same time, but probably not for the 100th episode.
No, we're going to keep learning our equipment.
But hopefully, we've heard good response that this is sounding better than it was before. I know there was a couple little mini, sound like phone clicks before, but I think we're getting about as good as we can get right now. So thank you again for everybody that supports us. It really means a lot. Keep the lights on, as they say in the old school sort of way. So
Yep.
it's greatly appreciated.
Well, let's start talking, Jason. Let's start talking about last night.
Yeah. What about it? Not even close.
To put it mildly, I was absolutely shocked beyond belief.
Yeah.
I did not think there's any way an Alabama team could be beat by 14, let alone 28.
No.
Just absolutely shocked. Brent Venables is an unbelievable defensive coordinator. Paid like a head coach because he gets over $2 million a year to be the coordinator. He was a coordinator at Oklahoma before that, and I don't know where he went after Oklahoma, but he's always been a great defensive coordinator.
He has.
And he obviously caused a lot of problems for Alabama's offense last night.
He did. And again, you had two young quarterbacks that we may see in the championship game again next year. And outside of injuries, they're going to see in the pros for years to come as well, because they both look pretty good. I mean, I thought Tua still looked all right, though.
I think Tua still looked all right. It just that I think that he was a little bit more confused. I think that the Venables caught them and did some things that they weren't expecting him to do. And Saban kind of said as much as halftime that there were some surprises that he didn't see. That they had taken what other teams had done against Alabama but tweaked them.
Mm-hmm. And Clemson has a number of potential first-round picks on that defense too, so they have the athletes to do stuff that other teams can try to run those schemes, and they just can't keep up with Alabama's athletes. But Clemson has really built themselves up into
And kudos to the Clemson players for making a recruiting pitch at the end of the game.
Oh, yeah.
So big-time kudos for them. Good shout-out. Dabo had a lot of screen time last night after the game.
And he used it wisely. Used it a lot.
And you know what? Dabo is a guy that's very genuine. You would welcome him into your home and talk to him, which is a big step of recruiting. That you want to talk to the guy and you want to hear more about him. And his players obviously love him.
Yeah. And he's the only coach in the last decade that can say that his program is the best program. I mean, he's gone up with Saban twice or 4 times in the last 4 years, and he's won twice, 2 national championships.
The first 15-0 team in history. And their seniors and Alabama's seniors finished with exactly the same record, 55 wins and 2 national championships.
Yeah.
And, frankly, Jason, it's probably easier for Clemson to get back because the competition in the ACC is not as tough as it is in the SEC.
No. And, I mean, I never know what it's worth to say that, they have a top whatever recruiting class, because you're projecting high school kids and some of them haven't finished growing or maturing, what they're going to be, at the next level. But they have one of the, I think they have the first or second top class again.
I know. And Trevor Lawrence started as a freshman on his high school team at 14 years old. And he is a prototype quarterback. He loves Peyton Manning, wears number 16, but he's more nimble than Peyton Manning. Not a lot more nimble, but more nimble.
More nimble, yeah, for certain.
But big kudos to – what was the freshman receiver from Alabama that played for Clemson? Ross?
Yeah.
He was outstanding. 6'4", 200 pounds.
And I think as we spoke, I talked to you a little bit off air, it seemed like that he threw a lot of 50-50 balls that those receivers just went up and made great plays on.
Yeah.
They weren't exactly beautiful precision passes necessarily, but he gave his receivers a chance to get the ball, and they just went and got it.
The one he threw to Higgins in the end zone over the one safety and between the other two, that was an unbelievable throw.
No. And if you're an offensive player right now and you're looking at, I got at least 2 more years of playing with the guy that's already considered the best pro prospect of the last decade since Andrew Luck. That's
I would want him on my highlight film. There's no question about it.
If I'm a receiver, that's where I want to go play. If I'm a receiving running back, or tight end, that's where I want to go play. Offensive lineman.
Yeah.
And again, you look at Clemson. I know they won the national championship, I think, in '82, if memory serves from the article I read. But Clemson's an ACC school that wasn't like, it's not like Clemson is like, they don't have the history of like Miami or one of those other, pedigree of like Texas or Oklahoma or the U or USC. Like,
but they're starting to now.
Yeah, but they're starting. I mean, he's done an amazing job of like taking that school and just, it's now, it's Alabama has been, you can argue Ohio State, Oklahoma, Texas, but I mean, it's really been Alabama for the last basically decade. And now they're on par with them. And I think coaching wise, that coaching staff is, that I don't think you could say Saban has an advantage over that team, I would say, coaching wise.
No, they kind of alluded to that last night. They talked about all the assistants that Saban has lost. So there hasn't been the continuity on the coaching staff, and Dabo has not lost assistant coaches.
Yeah.
So they thought that played a big role in it, that the continuity for the coaching staff and the players was pretty good.
Oh, I think it definitely did. I think it'd be impossible not to think that, right?
Yeah, but absolutely unbelievable. I stayed up, watched the entire game because I think I just couldn't believe what I was watching.
No, it was fantastic.
So kudos to Clemson. Great job.
Yeah. And I guess now we should move to last week where we both missed most of those games as far as our predictions went.
I believe I missed every one, although I could have been convinced to take Philadelphia. Philadelphia came in the game hot and they were playing well, but I was a big believer in Chicago at home, that defense. Yeah, I just thought that I thought Chicago would win. And it was an unbelievable game. It was a very good game. It's a great defensive game. Really feel bad for the kicker. And I know they finally decided that the kick was partially blocked on the field goal attempt.
Right.
But the agony of seeing it hit the upright and then falling on the crossbar and then falling in front of the crossbar, that had to be absolutely agonizing.
It does. And if you're the Bears, you had one of the most accurate kickers in field goal history in Robbie Gould. And you decided he was too expensive, and you went with Parkey, the young guy, who missed the second most kicks in the NFL this year. So,
but does it matter? Because now that winner of that game plays New Orleans.
It's true, but I mean, again, you saw what Dallas with their defense was able to do in New Orleans. They shut them down.
Yeah.
So you would think a Bears defense would at least have the potential, with Khalil Mack and those guys, they could, keep Drew Brees, And Philly, I mean, I don't know what you say about Philly with Nick Foles. They didn't look great, I wouldn't say. The defense played really well.
Defense played really well. He made plays when he had to make plays.
Yeah. And Trubisky, on the other hand, did not make plays.
Or he made some. I mean, he brought him down there at the end of the game. They could have won that game. So,
well, Tariq Cohen returned the ball most of the way, and then he completed like one pass.
But I'm sticking with my New Orleans pick on there. I don't see why they won't win.
I mean, like I said, as I live here amongst thousands of Saint fans, they're great. They haven't played great lately, but they are a juggernaut. That team at home, and that home field advantage is very, very much real. But Foles is a magic person, apparently.
Yeah. So Dallas won that game.
That's the one that I was almost positive Seattle was going to win. Because, again, I know we just talked about how Dallas was the one team that really shut down New Orleans this year.
Right.
But I just had no confidence in Dak Prescott and Jason Garrett and everybody else.
But Dak Prescott did it with his legs.
Yeah. But that's part of what,
Yeah.
he needs to. Ezekiel Elliott looked phenomenal. The Amari Cooper trade.
The Cowboy defense made it really difficult for Russell Wilson to see downfield and throw in his lanes.
I did notice in that game, it seemed like, I know you can argue whatever, but I know their identity is their running team, and they've got Carson and, Penny and that other guy, and they, Russell Wilson, and they run the ball. But it felt like against Dallas, that was not the way to play the game.
Not between the tackles. No way.
And that's what Seattle was, but it seemed like they should have adjusted and more play action, more rollouts. I mean, you have Russell Wilson. Let him be Russell Wilson. It just didn't seem like you were going to run on them. and especially, and it just seemed like a stubborn, because it seems like scarily they reminded me of the old school Cowher Steelers, where it was run on first down, run on second down, throw on third down. And if everybody in the stands knows what you're going to do, the defense does, and they're ready to stop it. I mean, that I didn't like it. Their game plan.
No, I didn't like the game plan either. I thought it was not imaginative, and I think they kept thinking they were going to break that loose, and they didn't, and the Cowboys kept stacking it up.
Yeah. And you look at the Cowboys linebackers with, Van Der Esch and everybody else, like that's not a team you want to try to – the middle is not where you want to go against that team.
No, Van Der Esch played really well, as did the kid from Notre Dame, Jalen Smith.
Yeah.
They both played really, really well.
So while we're on the topic of the Cowboys, not that we like the Cowboys and we wish them nothing but losses in their future, but Jason Garrett has not been considered a good coach for the last 5 or 6 years. And he was very much on the hot seat coming into these playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
It was I read a few articles that if they lost the Seattle game, they were just going to fire him on the spot. So what do you do if you're the Cowboys with him right now? Assuming they go to New Orleans and they put up, or no, they're not going to New Orleans, are they?
No, they're going to the Rams.
They're going to the Rams. Let's say they lose by 7 to the Rams. Does that change your? I mean, if they win, if he was a guy you were going to fire this year at the end of the year, can he do anything to say? Like, is there anything you've seen from the Cowboys? You're like, oh, that guy's a good coach. We need to keep him.
It's one of those things. I just don't think Jerry Jones is going to fire him. No.
Okay. I mean, I know people call him the clapper because they feel like that's all he does on the sideline is just clap his hands and he doesn't actually coach or adjust to anything.
Yeah. But what do you think about Cowboys-Rams this week?
I think on paper the Rams should win, and the Rams should win by like 10, but they've not looked like a very good football team. Aaron Donald had a phenomenal season, one of the best ever. He's obviously one of the best players in football. He had a great statistical season. And I know Marcus Peters obviously was injured, and he was that was a cornerback that looked really good the year before, and he thought somebody would really add to their defense. But their defense has not played well. And
no, it has not.
Once they lost Cooper Kupp, and I know it wasn't just Cooper Kupp. That's also when Gurley got a little bit banged up. But they just haven't looked like a very good team the last 6 weeks.
Dallas will be prepared for Gurley, and they'll stack up that middle again, just like they did.
Yeah.
Linebackers filled well. I mean, I think this is going to be a lot on Goff this week. He's going to have to beat him through the air.
And as good a season as Goff had, I still feel like you've got sort of Prescott's almost the same way, but you have Prescott and Trubisky and Goff, and there's probably 5 or 6 other quarterbacks I'm thinking of right now that it seems like they have the physical skills to play quarterback, but they're like 1 or 2 read quarterbacks. Like if everything is scripted and they know they've got, it's either, so-and-so, it's either the wide receiver on an up and out, and then if not, it's the tight end coming across. But if that breaks down, they don't seem like they know what to, Like, I know it's the dreaded system quarterback, but it seems like we have a lot of system quarterbacks in the NFL right now.
Well, like I said, I think Goff's going to have to beat him through the air.
Yeah.
If he can't do it, not going to do it because Van Der Bosch, they're going to take Gurley away.
Right.
Or they're going to do their best to take Gurley away. Let's put it that way. Don't take him away, but they're going to really emphasize that and try to make him beat him by throwing the ball.
And obviously the week off is going to help that team rest and get healthy a little bit, especially Gurley.
Yeah.
I also wonder, obviously we've learned that nobody in LA cares about the Chargers. And it seems like they've adopted the Rams as their LA team.
Yeah.
But it still doesn't seem like that's a huge home field advantage out there yet.
No. And it's LA. So we'll have to see, can the LA fans make it a home field advantage? That's a very good question.
Because obviously in Dallas, in New Orleans, like Philly, Pittsburgh, New England, those are places where the fans make it, obviously Seattle. Those are home field advantages where everything I've seen up in LA, like those. And again, I don't want to knock the state, be the stereotype LA fans or, fair weather fans that only care about the weather outside. But it doesn't seem like they've established a home field advantage in LA at this point.
No. We'll see what they do this week.
Yeah.
Let's turn to the AFC.
Okay. Andrew Luck, Andrew the Giant.
That game surprised me.
Yeah.
I did not think that they were going to come out and win that game. I really did not think that was going to happen.
No, and I learned a little bit. I kind of enjoyed Booger McFarland on TV. I thought for, a non-Tony Romo guy, I thought he was pretty good. But like he was explaining like that they're running, and again, we get excited when we hear the word Pittsburgh, but they're basically running like old school Pittsburgh cover two. And they're just keeping in front of them, not letting any big plays happen, and, rushing with four, and they're just doing it really well. And I think it helps that the Texans have a terrible offensive line, obviously.
Obviously, it was a lot more terrible than I thought it was.
But he said that they didn't like the defense was almost constantly just in a cover two zone the entire game, and just making plays when they were in front of them, not missing tackles, which is very not a modern NFL sort of thing. And the corner did a great job on DeAndre Hopkins. I think he had 4 catches for 39 yards. So
now they go into Kansas City.
Yes.
And Kansas City hasn't looked that good the last couple of games.
No, they haven't. And we should probably talk about, I know it's sort of weird to talk offensive line, but Quentin Nelson, that rookie from Notre Dame, he is just a beast. I don't feel like you typically notice offensive linemen that much when you're playing the game, unless you're probably like a coach. But he's destroying people. And I think he gives that Colts like just a different, they've always had trouble protecting Andrew Luck. They've done a lot better this year, but I think he gives them, obviously in the run game with Marlon Mack as well as he has, but I feel like Quentin Nelson just he's just a tone setter that they haven't had before.
Well, if Marlon Mack has a big day, the Chiefs are in for a long day.
And the Chiefs give up 5.1 yards a carry.
Yep.
And I think what's nice for the Chiefs is it's a home game. Arrowhead is it's going to be loud, it's going to be rocking there. And I think the throws that Watson was unable to make, I think Mahomes is going to make. Because Mahomes is a special, special talent.
But
and I also think
it's his first playoff game.
It is.
It's Andy Reid in January.
It's true.
So this one's going to be a really interesting game to watch.
And I also think they said that he's completely healthy now. He's a little dinged up, but I think Tyreek Hill, I don't think he's as good as DeAndre Hopkins or some of these other guys, but I think he might be the toughest receiver to cover in the NFL because he's just so fast and so quick.
We haven't never, people haven't talked about the Colt defense all year, so this is going to be the big offense against a defense that you really haven't heard that much about.
No. And I think the Chiefs are still down to Williams, their third string running back as well, which, I think he's asserted himself well, but considering they lost, obviously, deservedly so, because he seems like a bad person, but you lost an all-pro running back who was a big part of your offense.
And then that brings us to the Chargers at the Patriots.
Ugh. Where Tom Brady, I know this is a stupid thing to say because quarterbacks don't play against quarterbacks, but he is 7-0 against Phillip Rivers. Not that he isn't, 6-1, 7-1, 8-1, 8-2 against every other quarterback in the NFL, but,
I think the Charger defense is going to have the same game they had last weekend.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon and Joey Bosa were just destroying people.
And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take getting Brady moving around, making him uncomfortable, making him throw earlier. Josh Gordon's gone now. Gronk is a shell. But we'll see.
Gronk is a shell, but we've seen what modern medicine can do for players from time to time.
It is playoff time.
It's playoff time, and I feel like I'm not saying he was playing possum or anything like that, but I feel like we've got a couple games of real Gronk again, where he can sort of he may have lost a step speed wise, but I think he can make a few Gronk plays. That's my thought.
And I look for Julian Edelman to have a huge game. Huge game.
Well, the Chargers' defense is legit. I think for the Chargers, it comes down to I think Melvin Gordon will be able to run the ball pretty much the same way he's been able to run the ball against everybody all year. But I feel like when you watch Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and that other receiver, I think it was also Williams.
Yep.
And obviously the ancient one, Antonio Gates. Some weeks, they're a little bit similar to Pittsburgh, where you watch them one week and they look like this unstoppable juggernaut of an offense where they're just throwing the ball over the field. And then the next week, even if it's against an inferior opponent, at least on paper, those guys don't get play. Those are making plays.
I got to give props to Antonio Gates because he looks like Fred Sanford out there trying to run pass patterns. But he gets open and catches the ball when he's pretty close to him.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's not legitimate because he's, he hasn't been playing the entire my life, but it's like it's hard to imagine football when Antonio Gates was not playing football.
Yeah, it is.
He and Terrell Suggs are just like, how are you still there?
It's hard to say. So I don't know. It's interesting, and Brady's Brady. I can't pick against Brady at home.
No. And on the one hand, I look at the Steeler game where you could watch where Brady looked like he had happy feet and he was, throwing balls before he had to throw them. But I think that may have also been, I'm 41 years old. I don't want to get hit right now. There's more important things on the line in the playoffs. And I think he's going to be a different Brady than some of the sketchy,
Yeah.
I think he may have been preserving himself and not taking as many hits during the regular season, but I think he and Gronk are going to suck it up and make a big run in the playoffs. And that makes me sad because I don't want the Patriots to win again. But
all right, so we're both going with the Patriots over the Chargers.
Yes. I like the Chiefs over the Colts.
Okay.
Mahomes won me a lot of money this year in fantasy, so it's hard for me to pick against him.
I'm also going to go with the Chiefs over the Colts.
And then NFC, I think it's hard to pick against the Saints and Rams.
I cannot pick against the Saints. No way. And I don't think Dallas away from home. I'm going to go with the Rams. So we're on the same page. All 4 games. We picked all 4 games the same.
Right. And bizarre.
Hopefully we do better than that.
Remember we were like 10 weeks into the season and almost every team in the NFC East had a losing record?
Yes.
And now we're 1 week away from them playing in the NFC Championship game, 2 NFC East teams. That can't happen, right? It's just, I can't imagine that happening.
I can't either.
I mean, because I don't really feel like Dallas or Philly, even the magical Nick Foles Philly, are that good of a team.
Although Philly was in the Super Bowl last year, and they had a lot of injuries.
They were.
But that team really played well, and I think they're coached well. I think they have a lot of heart, a lot of spirit. I just don't see it happening in New Orleans. If it was in Philly, I would probably take Philly. If they were playing the Rams, I might take Philly again. If they were playing the Cowboys, I'd definitely take them. I just can't take them against the Saints.
So we're once again pretty much across the board picking the same teams, which didn't do well for us last week. But you never know. Maybe do better this week.
Never know. Although I was really tempted last week to take Philadelphia, and I didn't. So,
well, let's do 2 NBA thoughts I had. Did you see the Steph Curry play where he got called for traveling?
Yeah, I did.
I absolutely loved it because as great as he is as a player, I can't stand watching James Harden play basketball. I know superstars get away with, an extra half step here and there, but that guy travels constantly. So when Steph Curry got called for traveling, doing the same bizarre 4-step jump back that Harden gets to do all the time, when he got called for traveling, he held up 1-3. And in his press conference, he made it very clear that, certain players get these calls and I guess I don't, which I thought was fantastic.
I mean, it's crazy. I just think it's just way too much latitude now. I don't know. I just don't like the way they're enforcing rules at all.
No. I mean, it's great because, again, Harden, half the time when they're like, look at Harden as he breaks somebody's ankles, he barrels into them, pushes off, takes 3 steps backwards and shoots a 3, and they're like, look at that nasty move by Harden. And I'm like, he pushed a guy on the ground and traveled. And I don't know why he's become, the Jordan rules of the NBA. I don't know what he's done to become the ref's favorite player, but he seems to become that for whatever reason.
I hate the move where if you put your arm out there, he throws his arms into you and gets 3 for free throws. I can't stand that move.
No.
But you know who else is benefiting from the Euro step? The Greek Freak.
He is, yes.
He has definitely learned how to take advantage of that.
But I think he and LeBron, when they travel, it's sort of in that still annoying, but that little mini, whereas Harden takes sometimes 4 to 5 steps.
Yep.
And, and besides that, all the, they try to get rid of flopping because they said it was bad for the game. And again, I don't want to take anything away because Harden's obviously been playing MVP level basketball for the last 14 games. But it's just annoying to watch. And I thought it was kind of funny that Steph did what Steph did.
Well, I have to admit, I've been enjoying watching the NBA and TNT and everybody promoting the Bucks.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a lot of fun watching that happen with the Fear of the Deer and all the stuff coming up. I've really enjoyed it because I'd like to see those small market teams where you're not going to attract free agents, where you're going to do with what you have. I like seeing that happen.
Yes.
But my favorite move of the week was the firing of Coach Thibodeau.
Yes.
Which should happen in July, but it didn't.
Right.
But I'm so glad that it finally happened.
Because, again, he alienates a lot of his players. He was still, even with his team, like, I know they're a young team, but he had a rotation of like 6 to 7 guys deep, sometimes a game where he's only playing 6 players. And all medical science has basically said, no, that's not how we do it anymore. That's how you run people into the ground, and that's how you end up with, like, Derrick Rose missing, basically better part of 3 seasons, and Joakim Noah being just a shell of a human being at this point.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work physically anymore.
No, I'm just so happy he's going. I'm going to see if it helps the Timberwolves.
But speaking of Thibodeau, his old favorite player, Jimmy Butler, is
yes, Jimmy's been up to his old Jimmy stuff this week.
He has been. On some level, though, it's a weird thing. Because I guess, Brett Brown has obviously defended him and saying that Jimmy's just a very passionate guy and it wasn't a disrespectful yelling. He was just adamantly trying to make his point, which, take that for whatever you think that's worth. But if you look at the numbers, they're bizarrely a much better team with Jimmy on the floor with the ball than with Ben Simmons on the ball.
Agreed.
Like plus 20 difference. Because
one's a shooter and one's a penetrator.
Right.
And the shooter can also penetrate. The penetrator is not really that great of a shooter.
Right. And when you have Jimmy Butler handling the ball, Ben Simmons is pretty much a liability on offense because he can't shoot. And if you're running the pick and roll between Jimmy Butler and Joel Embiid, he's not really cutting to the hoop. He's just standing outside doing nothing and then have to guard him. So it'll be interesting to see what they do because they gave up a lot. I mean, not a lot, but they gave up enough of their rotation guys to get him. And, I'm not sure if he's the best thing for, he, Wiggins and Towns were not a good fit. And you got to wonder if Embiid and Simmons are a good fit. Although I had heard rumors that Embiid and Simmons weren't exactly best buddies either. So maybe that marriage was going to come to the end at some point regardless. And then I guess.
So do we think that AD is going to be wearing a Laker uniform next year?
Well, I was about to bring him up because you saw the quote from Jason Tatum, right?
No, I did not.
Jason Tatum said, I'd trade me to get Anthony Davis. I mean, of all the teams in the NBA, nobody has the assets that Boston does.
Nobody does.
Now, whether or not, you would, if you're Boston and you're going to give up all those assets, you're going to need some kind of assurance that Anthony Davis isn't just going to take off as a free agent and run to LA anyway, or some other city. But it's not working in New Orleans again. I love speaking of New Orleans, did you see their like almost rainbow New Orleans NOLA uniforms?
No, I didn't see those.
Those are really cool. I mean, again, shout out to the NBA. Some of their uniforms this year have just been phenomenal.
What are the primary colors in that one?
It was a white jersey. I think NOLA was in the black and gold. And then at first, when I looked on the highlights, it looked like a little bit like those Nuggets jerseys with the horizontal stripes across the stomach area. It was
okay.
Kind of rainbow color. But I realized it was Anthony Davis, so I'm obviously not watching the Nuggets. But,
I'll go online after we get done with the show and check it out. I want to see what it is.
Yeah, I don't know what that jersey was, but again, props to the NBA. I know the NBA sells more jerseys than all the other sports, I think. But I feel like every time I turn it on.
The NBA has had a banner year with jerseys.
Yeah.
And the NFL should forget about Color Rush and come up with something else creative.
Or just a couple, throw in a couple more. Like I actually I like the black on black, all the blackout Steeler uniforms. I think
I do like that. That's my favorite Color Rush uniform. But I hate the Dolphins. I hate the Texans. I mean, they're just horrible.
I know they're horrible, but on some level, like the all red Bills ones.
Yeah,
I bizarrely like them. And that ugly green Seattle one, again, I like them, but. To be fair, since I was a child on ESPN, anytime they do a list of the ugliest NBA or NBA ugliest uniforms, I typically like 80 to 90% of them. So I have awful taste, apparently. But I think visually, I wouldn't want to wear those uniforms as like a fan. But I think they look cool on TV.
Yeah, they do. Except, I just don't know. I just don't like the colorist jerseys. I don't like them.
Well, I don't like.
I've been a big fan of all the NBA things this year.
Yeah. No, they're just fantastic. And, like I said, every time I see a new one, I'm like, ooh, that's a good looking jersey too. So, and I guess
entertainment wise,
yeah,
I've been watching The Sopranos rebroadcast on HBO all week. And I think I tweeted out, my comment on Twitter was, I've never seen music used better on a TV show than The Sopranos did. They use it to set the mood, and they use it to send a message, and they really use it to effectively close out each episode. So I'm back in awe of the way that show was. But I'm also in awe of how violent it was.
Let's see. Well, I've enjoyed
it. I've enjoyed the telecast. I'm really looking forward to True Detective on Sunday night this week.
Oh, yes.
Real excited about that.
Definitely.
And I think the trailers have been really, really well done because they don't give away much, but they're really effective at teasing you.
Yes, they are.
And telling you this looks like something really, really worthwhile.
Well, I told you I've been watching, I think it's a Swedish show, but it's dubbed in English. So it's very well dubbed, but it is dubbed. It's a show called Perfume.
Uh-huh.
And it's one of these shows about a group of 5 people that grew up together. And now they're adults and they're all suspects in a bizarre crime. It's sort of about like, it's about the essence of smell. And as gross as this is, like it's a fairly disturbing, it's a very dark, very disturbing show. But they did an experiment as kids where they cut out certain glands on a dog and made a perfume out of that they wore. And then all the puppies chased them because they smelled like the mother dog that they had killed, which is, I know, pretty disturbing. But then they talk about how it goes both ways. And if you smelled like the puppies, that adults would also want to go for. So, I mean, it's, like I said, it's pretty twisted. And it's a matter of, who committed these, then as adults, there's some more murders that are, it's a little twisted, but it's pretty good.
Okay.
Like I said, it's very dark. So
I had a brief food moment this week.
Brief food moment.
Yes.
Okay.
I went to Culver's last night, and the flavor of the day was chocolate-covered strawberry.
Okay.
And I would sit here and tell you that in my adult life, it might be the best frozen custard ice cream I've ever had.
Really?
It was, if you like chocolate and you like strawberry and you like custard,
sure,
it was amazing.
Because you were a connoisseur of fine custard ice cream.
It wasn't just chocolate custard; it was hard. The hard chocolate on top of the custard is great. It was really good.
Well, I'm avoiding the food moments we're having in New Orleans at this time of year because we've already begun Carnival. As I was walking, there was a parade taking place on top of trolleys, or people on the trolley throwing stuff at people off the side. And we've already begun king cake season, which I think I've spoken on the podcast last year. It's kind of overrated. It's basically a Cinnabon in the shape of a circle with a baby inside of it. Plastic baby, obviously.
I've tasted it. I'd rather have a Cinnabon.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very, the cake is very similar to a Cinnabon. And then it has some sort of filling, maybe, maybe not. And then it's either cream cheese or sugary frosting. But it's, But they love them down here. So, good for them.
Let's see. Nobody signed Bryce Harper yet.
But he's meeting with the Phillies.
Yeah. Phillies have some money to spend.
Yeah. And supposedly he was offered north of $300 million by the Nationals, if that story is to be believed.
That is true. He was offered over $300 million by the Nationals, and he turned it down.
Turned it down, yeah. I don't know. Good for him, obviously. I don't know if any player's worth that kind of money, especially, baseball, I don't understand the economics of baseball whatsoever.
I think the problem is baseball doesn't understand the economics of baseball either.
Yeah.
Your hometown Rays here is reducing the capacity of the stadium to 25,000.
Okay.
And so they might be able to sell out when they play the Yankees and Red Sox.
Well, that's nice.
But unfortunately, it's just not. For one reason or another, it's a very good team that just doesn't draw people.
No.
And they're going to try and emphasize improving the fan experience in that dome. So we'll see how that goes.
It's the same old dome I've been to games at, right?
Oh, that's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah, like I said, it's the worst professional sporting venue I've ever been to in my life. It's just there's nothing. It's not good. And again, Tampa is one of those. It's not quite LA because we get obviously a lot of humidity and sometimes it's nice to be inside.
Uh-huh.
But there's so much to do with the beach and outdoor stuff that,
Yeah,
I think baseball is a much tougher sell.
I agree. I think it's a very tough sell.
And again, in my not you life where I'm outside in the world, I hear people talk soccer. Believe it or not, I have a few hockey fans on my show. And I just, and then there's the occasional MMA and even WWE. I don't ever hear baseball talk. Now, granted, I know New Orleans doesn't have a team, so maybe that's part of it, but I never hear it.
No. I agree.
Like I said, it also doesn't have a hockey team. And we have, there's 4 or 5 guys on my crew that, and granted, we have about 200 people, but we talk hockey at least once a week. So.
Well, the Penguins are playing really well, and the Lightning's playing unbelievably well.
Yeah. So I think if you're, again, I like hockey, but I realize hockey's a little bit more niche. But if you're getting more hockey, if the average person is all of a sudden hearing more hockey talk than baseball talk, that's, But again, like I said, if you're about to sign Bryce Harper to $300 million deals, you're obviously doing something right. So what do I know? But we will be back next week. You also have food moments because you're traveling.
Yeah, I'll be traveling to LA. I'll be going to one of the very famous LA restaurants, Dan Tana's, in between Hollywood and Beverly Hills.
Okay.
I'll be going there on my birthday on Saturday, so I'll be checking that out. I've always wanted to go, never gone. So it's a real old school Sinatra, Rat Pack, red sauce kind of a place.
Okay, that sounds good. And that'll be episode 100. So we're very thankful for all your support. I know we keep forgetting to add this part, but we would love to hear questions. If you can email us questions, Twitter you questions, just contact us with questions. We'd love to hear some topics from you guys that you want to hear talked about. We really enjoy getting those when you send them.
And we absolutely will take the time. We'll research your questions. We'll try to come up with some really good answers for you.
And again, if it's not sports related, we'll gladly, we'll throw them in the show too. As we talk about food and everything else anyway. So
sports, entertainment, and food.
Exactly.
The Holy Triangle.
Guess that's it, right?
That's it. So we're wishing everybody a great week. Enjoy the playoffs. Shout out to the Clemson fans. Sorry for the Alabama fans. It was a game. It just wasn't a good game.
No, it just wasn't. But that's okay. Alabama won success recently.
They can't all be good games.
No, they're fine. It's like if the Patriots lose, I don't feel too bad for Patriots fans right now.
No, I won't feel bad at all.
They're just fine. They're doing okay.
They are. All right. We'll talk to you all in about 5 days after the next round of NFL playoffs.